Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Origin Threadcraft, the knitting podcast. If you're a returning viewer, this format today is going to be a little bit different than usual. And if you are a new viewer, you might not know what this is at all. So I'll give you a swift introduction. This is traditionally a knitting podcast where I like to talk about my whips, works in progress, my finished objects, things I'm planning to knit, any stash acquisitions. And it's a pretty consistent format week to week, but this week I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about a local fiber festival. So this whole video is really just going to be about that particular fiber festival, and it's a bit of a yarn haul. So if you really like stash acquisitions, this is a great video for you, especially if you're interested in talking about what you might find at a local Ohio fiber festival. If that's not really your bag, this might not be the video for you, in which case I'll let you know that later this week I will have a traditional podcast episode up with lots of whips, lots of projects to talk about, and lots of great recommendations for things to try. So that's a quick little introduction here. My name is Julia. I live in the Central Ohio area, and I am a lifestyle knitter, so I knit pretty much all the time, and I am an equal opportunity knitter. I knit small things, big things, lengthy projects, little projects, all that's in between. So that's a little bit of what you will find here, and let's get into it after I take a sip of coffee. Okay, actually I'm just gonna hold on to it for a few minutes. It's my comfort coffee. Anyway, today I would like to talk about a fiber festival that is semi-local to me, and it is called a Gathering of Wool. You might hear me refer to it as the Wool Gathering in this video. That's because that's what I've called it my entire life, and I only recently found out that it's actually called a Gathering of Wool and has always been called that. If you're from the Midwest, you might be familiar with how the Kroger grocery store, we always call it Kroger's, even though there's no apostrophe, there's no personification there. Don't know why we do that. I think it's a little bit like that. So if I say a Gathering of Wool, or if I say the Wool Gathering, it is the same festival, and I will link it below so that you can find it if you're interested in it. Anyway, it is a teeny tiny wool festival that takes place every September at Young's Jersey Dairy, which is a Jersey dairy farm just outside of the Dayton area. It's in a little town called Yellow Springs, which is a fun little artist community out in Western Ohio. And the facility has grown so much over the years. It used to be very, very small, pretty much just one building, the little farm and their like ice cream parlor, and now it is a whole complex, a whole situation. Very, very busy on the weekends, definitely a destination location and a spot to be. So it's really nice that they still let us have this wool festival there because it's something that I look forward to every year. I grew up going to this festival ever since I was a little kid, and I missed it a lot in my 20s because I lived overseas or out of state. So ever since moving back to Ohio, it's something I look forward to every year. And, you know, third week in September, you know it's happening. And this year in particularly, I knew that I just like wanted to save up in advance and, you know, scout ahead of time what might or might not be there and kind of make a list of like potential projects in mind to shop for. And I was not disappointed. I definitely was able to meet a lot of those goals and then some. So like I said, this video is pretty much just talking about that little festival and a fiber haul of sorts. So hopefully you can find some local or interesting indie dyers that you've never heard of, or some fun little farm businesses to check out and support in the future. So if you like looking at yarn, this is gonna be a good episode, buckle up. Okay, let's get into it. First things first, I always go into a festival with the best intentions of mind of, you know, looking at all the booths and walking through everything and planning my purchases ahead of time. And then of course that always goes out the window pretty much at the second booth, which is exactly what happened this time around. So when you first walk into the festival, the first tent is kind of the agriculture tent. So that's where you're gonna find the little sheepies, the lambs, they'll do sheep shearing demonstrations. There's usually a yak vendor, the little Angora rabbits. It's super cute and it's nice that it's right there at the start of the festival, so you kind of get the idea of like what the festival's about. And I'll insert a little bit of footage that I took at the end of the video of the little sheepies, because who doesn't want to see the little sheepies? And then the next spot beyond that, they have what's called yarn trucks. So think of a food truck, and then just fill it with yarn, and that's what that is. And they're super cute. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and I'll link them all below so that you have the names of each of them. I only officially shopped at 2 of them, but that was really more budgetary than anything I would have bought happily from any of the vendors there. They were all lovely. And the second yarn truck, which was the Yardbirds yarn truck, which I'll put the name off to the side there. It's kind of a play on Yardbirds, the band. It's Yarnbirds. That was where I made my first purchase, and this is that. So these are some wooden sock blockers in size medium. So that's a US like women's 8 to 9, I believe. And they are just beautiful. I can't even really like describe how excited I am about these. I just recently started knitting socks this year, and I have some plastic blockers which work fine for the purpose, but I've been seeing these wooden ones online, and I thought they were kind of hard to find. I haven't seen them in yarn stores before, and they are so much smoother in person than I was expecting. Like I was kind of worried about wooden being next to that fine of yarn because I didn't want to snag it or anything like that, and I am just so impressed. And I think that since there's a lot of these little like lino cut flowers, I think that it'll actually allow for a lot of air circulation. I think the socks will dry really quickly, and I think it's just gonna be beautiful for photos. And this is kind of like an heirloom piece that I'm really excited about. So that was the first thing that I bought, and it's really more of a notion than yarn, but I couldn't resist. And she had a few different lino cut options there. Like there was a little bee with some honey, there was like a rose, intricate rose one, and like a dandelion, but I really liked this one because I felt like it had really good airflow, and I just thought it would look nice in a like wide variety of like photo options and just be really functional. So sock blockers from Yarnbirds. Okay, and then the first actual yarny purchase that I made was from a mill called Checkered Flag Fibers. It's gonna be backwards because I'm recording on my phone, but Checkered Flag Fibers in Enon, Ohio, which I will of course link below. And I just could not get over this yellow. This is a true woolly wool. It is all from sheeps grown on her property. And then I don't think it's hand spun. I think she has it spun actually at a mill, but total fleece to fiber, locally grown, and then she dyes it herself as well. And it's just this beautiful golden, like marigold color. And the color, if you're interested in finding it on her website, is Aztec Gold, and it's her alpaca merino base. And I'm honestly not sure of the weight. It looks kind of like a DK to me. DK or heavy fingering. I'll probably have to put it on my wraps per inch tool and actually see what the fiber weight is on this. But it's just such a beautiful and like lightweight. I wonder, it doesn't look woolen spun, but it is super lightweight. And it was $20 for 400 yards, which I did not think was bad at all for being fleece to fiber, hand dyed, beautiful color, good amount of yardage, alpaca, which always adds to the cost. So I thought that was a really good deal. So I bought 1 skein of this, and I am planning on using it in color work on a yoke. Maybe, I think I have a pattern picked out for it. I'll put it off to the side just so you can kind of envision it. I honestly forget the name of it, but I'll put it off to the side so you can kind of envision where this would sit in the yoke. And then I think I'm gonna mix it with like a chestnut brown color. And I might do like either Brooklyn tweed, or maybe I'll reach out to this dyer and see if she has other like brown bases. But I was happy to support her. She was also really nice. So that was my first yarny purchase. And then next up, if you've watched any of my previous episodes, you know that I love McMullen Fiber Co. She is one of my favorite local dyers. She's based in the Cincinnati area, and I'm a member of like one of her fiber clubs, and I've knit just a ton of stuff with her yarn. So always got to go see McMullen, and I purchased this purple skein, which is getting super blown out. I'm sorry, Mr. Sun has disappeared, so my lighting situation's a little precarious at the moment. But this is kind of true to color. I would say it's a little more purpley, a little more blues than is showing up on the camera right now. And this is on her squishy sock base. It is the color Make It Work. And I am planning to use this with some Sorella yarn that I actually won in a giveaway earlier this year. And I'm going to use this in, I think, in Andrea Mowry Baubles shawl pattern. So I will put that up to the side so you can kind of see where that's going to go. And I'm just really excited about it. I think it's going to be the perfect purple. So that was actually on my list for ahead of time. I need to find the perfect purple to go with this yarn that I already have. So I was excited to make that happen on a dyer that I love. Next up was a totally new to me dyer, but this was also on my list. So this is from Jim Luke's Fibers, which I believe is out of the Alabama area, Mississippi, dyed in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It's not super local. She definitely traveled to come to this festival, but her yarn was beautiful. And it was all Greek mythology themed. So the labels, like you can see, I know it's gonna be backwards, but you can kind of see, it's almost like this Assassin's Creed style font, like papyrus font. And yeah, they're all named after like Greek gods and goddesses. And I just thought her colorways were really pretty. And I kind of had on my list that I wanted this really bright, either like robin's egg blue or kind of like teal color. And this fit the bill perfectly. And this I'm going to use as a background color in a brioche tiles shawl, which again, I'll put off to the side there. And I've already got my main color picked for it. So this was like to go with that. And I think it's gonna turn out perfectly. So again, this is from Jim's Luke's Fibers. And it is a fingering weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 463 yards, which again, super generous yardage. I mean, I know that happens on a lot of fingering weight skeins, but yeah, very impressed. It's a little more green than it is showing up on the screen here. But yeah, beautiful yarns. Highly recommend checking them out. And then this one was a totally new to me dyer as well, also local to Ohio. And this is from Solstice Fiber Studio. And I cannot recommend their yarn enough. Every single color they had was just stunning. But this particular one just kept calling out to me. I mean, I probably walked by their booth 3 or 4 times before I actually went back to finally purchase it, because I just couldn't stop thinking about this yarn. It was absolutely beautiful. And this colorway is called the You've Got a Friend in Me, and it is the perfect autumnal, variegated, just like soft salmon pinks, light blues, marigold yellows, so soft. And this, I kind of broke my rule in that I didn't actually have a project picked for this ahead of time, and I still don't really know what I'm going to use it for, but I just couldn't leave it behind. It was so beautiful, and it's so soft. And it's just 100% superwash merino, but it honestly feels like there's cashmere in it. Like, it's very, very soft for a merino. And again, that's from Solstice Fiber Studio, and I think they're up in Northern Ohio. I'll link to them below. They were super sweet, younger, two friends doing dyeing together, and I think they just kind of are still smaller. I don't know. I guess I already follow them on Instagram, and I didn't even realize that. So I've added them to my favorites now, so that I'll see when they post updates and stuff. But their yarn is beautiful, and I highly recommend trying them out. And then next, this is actually not yarn, but it is yarn adjacent. And this is from a business called Holland Hoof Farm Store, and they specialize in handmade buttons. and clay and a few other like yarn bowls, stuff like that. But their main gig was handmade buttons. And these are deer antler shed buttons. So if you know, deers lose their antlers. And so the sheds are left behind when they get bigger antlers. And I just thought these were so cool. I mean, such an heirloom vibe. I don't even know what I'm gonna put these on. Probably like a cable knit shrug or cardigan, like something that can handle just the 2 buttons. And they had tons to choose from, but these 2 in particular just really called out to me, and I just thought they were so beautiful. So got those. They also had really beautiful like walnut buttons, olive wood, hand carved, just stunning options to choose from. So I will link them below, and if you're in the market for any unique buttons, I highly recommend checking them out. And then my final yarny purchase, which was also my last purchase of the festival, even though I thought about it the entire time because it was the first truck in the gates. So this is from Indigo Guinea fiber, which I had not heard of. I believe they're out of Indiana. And she was the first yarn truck right when you walked into the festival. And I saw this skein and immediately fell in love. And like I said, I was trying to be good and not purchase anything until I walked through everything. And then that obviously went out the gates the next truck. But I thought about this yarn the whole time, and I was like, I'm going back to that. If it's still there, I'm getting it. And this is her Summertime Peaches colorway on her Sparrow fingering base. And it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 460 yards. Very soft. Can't really tell that there's nylon content on it. And it's just the perfect end of summer colorway to me. Like, if September was a skein of yarn, it would be this. Light pinks, beautiful delicate spring speckles, sagey green, which is my favorite green, beautiful yellow, which obviously I can't resist. Big fan. And she is very smart about the way she displays her yarn, because she had that one sitting right next to the perfect tonal, which is this beautiful sagey green. And I don't know if they were from the same collection. It looks like they were dyed to go together. But if they weren't, I mean, they go together perfectly, and I cannot wait to use them in a project together. Her booth was fantastic. She had so many like fun notions and enamel pens and just the cutest stuff. But her yarn really like showed out to me. And I would happily buy from her again. I think she's on Etsy for right now, so I'll link her shop below. But I know she travels around to a lot of different festivals, and if you get a chance to see her booth, I highly recommend patroning it, because I just can't wait to knit this into something. I think I'm gonna do a brioche shawl with these, and I'll put the inspo picture up to the side, so you can kind of see what I'm envisioning there. But even if I don't end up doing that with it, I think this is just gonna make such a beautiful work of art. Very excited about that yarn. So that's all the yarn that I bought. I also took just a ton of business cards. I always try to do that when I'm at a festival, because it's kind of impossible to, you know, buy everything. I mean, gotta pay bills, gotta keep car insurance and keep a car running and all that good stuff. But it's a special event that only comes, you know, once a year. And since I don't get to go to Rhinebeck, I don't get to go to the big, huge festivals. This is kind of like our main event here in the Midwest, at least in Ohio. And it was just really exciting to kind of patron all these small different dyers, and also take business cards and learn about new people to check out. So I'll link below some honorable mentions that like I did not buy from, but like would happily buy from in the future, liked them enough to grab a card. And then I have one more stash acquisition, which is yarn adjacent, because obviously it's a fiber festival. There's a lot of raw fiber there. And I do not have a spinning wheel. I am not a spinner. But I do have some aspirations to be. I know a lot of people that have like dove into spinning this year. Obviously, I mean, if you watch Andrew Mallory's podcast, Sometimes she calls it I'll spin if I want to, because she talks a lot about spinning content. And if you watch Brooke Rillo, she just recently bought a wheel, which I'm so jealous of. And I've been like kind of lusting after these hand spun yarns for a while and being like, you know, I really want to try it, but obviously a wheel is a huge investment. So I'm gonna try a drop spindle. And there was a booth there, and I apologize because I lost their card. I'm not sure who I actually got this from, but pardon the crinkles. This is just a pile of fiber. So they had these little, they called them woolen tufts, and it's just little like samples of fiber. And they were like $1 a piece, and if you bought 10, you got a free one. So I got 11, and I tried to pick colors that I thought would look kind of good together, spun into like this funky, you know, color shifting skein. So I got those because it was relatively inexpensive, and I thought it would be good to practice with and just not be too precious about it. And so I got that pretty early on in the festival, and I was just on the hunt for like the perfect drop spindle. But I honestly couldn't find one that called out to me. I mean, there's a ton of spindles there, but a lot of them were like really simple, kind of more just like a dowel rod with a hook on the end, which is awesome, like great for beginners. But I was like, I could probably make that myself. And then on the opposite end, there was a lot of like really beautiful, ornate, like hand carved, or just like beautiful drop spindles that I was like, wow, that's stunning, but I don't really know what I'm doing yet, and I might hate this. I don't really want to spend $60 on a spindle right now. So when I got back, I started looking on Etsy, and I found a really great shop. So this is kind of wool gathering adjacent, since I didn't buy this at the wool gathering, but I just wanted to let you know about it because I think it's a really great shop. So this was from the Etsy shop. Let me find their card. I think it's pronounced Malky's Fiber Arts. I'm sorry, I'm totally probably butchering that, but I will put their link below and off to the side. Great little shop on Etsy. Lots of spindles to choose from, super affordable options, and I'm honestly so pleased with the spindle I got. And how quick the shipping was, because I ordered this basically when I got back from the festival, because I was like, I want to spin my fiber that I got, but I didn't get a spindle. And it came yesterday, so really quick shipping, I thought, for an Etsy shop, and just like beautiful, right? This is the mandala one, but she had lots of wooden ones to choose from. And I got the large version because I'm aspirational, but there's small ones too. And super affordable, and I'm just really impressed with the quality. And then she also sent a little sample of her bats of fiber. So I thought that was really fun to practice with and see if I like it. And I'll probably, if I do like it, I probably will buy fiber from her in the future. But yeah, at the festival, there was just so many like beautiful vats of raw fiber and like dyed in the wool. And so I think next year, if I get really into the spinning and, you know, have success with it, I'll probably end up buying one of those because they were beautiful to look at and just touch. There were so many wonderful dyers and fiber adjacent businesses there, and I highly recommend, if you get a chance to check it out, that you go, because the wool gathering it's a fun time. It's totally worth it. And I'm interested. I know that, you know, I have viewers from all over the world, which blows my mind that anybody wants to sit and talk about yarn. But if you have a fiber festival that is like local to you or really exciting, or if you're lucky enough to, like, I don't know, live in Scandinavia where they have fiber festivals everywhere, put that in the comments below, because I would love to know what your festival is like. I would love to have a link to it, so we can all kind of geek out and see what people are excited about for this fiber season. So thanks for listening to me ramble. Look out for a podcast hopefully later this week that's a little more finished object oriented. But thanks for joining this yarn haul, and tell me what you liked below or what you're interested in checking out. Have a great day.